Welcome to Coffee with Viking. I am Mike. Cheers. And we are on part 2 of session 6 of remaining faithful in the fire. The sin behind the writing. Daniel 5:9-24. Then was King Belshazzar greatly troubled, and his countenance was changed in him, and his lords were astonished. Now the queen, by reason of the words of the king and his lords, came into the banquet house, and the queen spake and said, O king, live forever. Let not thy thoughts trouble thee, nor let the countenance be changed. There is a man in thy kingdom in whom is the spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of thy father light and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods, was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, the king, I say, thy father made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers. For as much as an excellent spirit in knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams, and shewing of hard sentences, and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will shew the interpretation. Then was Daniel brought in before the king, and the king spake and said unto Daniel, Art thou that Daniel which art of the children of the captivity of Judah, whom the king my father brought out of Jewry? I have even heard of thee that the spirit of the gods is in thee, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom is found in thee. And now the wise men and astrologers have been brought in before me, that they should read this writing and make known unto me the interpretation thereof. But they could not shew the interpretation of the thing. And I have heard of thee that thou canst make interpretations and dissolve doubts. Now if thou canst read the writing, and make known to me the interpretation thereof, thou shalt be clothed with scarlet, and have a chain of gold about thy neck, and shalt be the third ruler of the kingdom. Then Daniel answered and said before the king, Let thy gifts be to thyself, and give thy rewards to another. Yet I will read the writing unto the king, and make known to him the interpretation. O thou king, the most high God gave Nebuchadnezzar thy father a kingdom, and majesty, and glory, and honor. And for the majesty that he gave him, all people, nations, and languages trembled and feared before him. Whom he would, he slew, and whom he would, he kept alive, and whom he would, he set up, and whom he would, he put down. But when his heart was lifted up, and his mind hardened in pride, he was deposed from his kingly throne, and they took his glory from him, and he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointed over it whomsoever he will. And though his son, O Belshazzar, hast not humbled thine heart, through thou knewest all this, but hast lifted up thyself against the Lord of heaven, and they have brought the vessels of his house before thee, and thou and thy lords, thy wives, and thy concubines have drunk wine in them, and thou hast praised the God of silver and gold and brass, iron, wood, and stone, which see not nor hear nor know, and the God in whose hand thy breath is, in whose are all thy ways, hast thou not glorified? Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and his writing was written. In a familiar series of events, the wise men were lost, and the queen remembered a man who served Nebuchadnezzar, who could interpret this writing. But before Daniel interpreted the message, he explained the nature of Belshazzar's sin that led to the writing on the wall. Look through verses 17 to 24. With what did Daniel charge Belshazzar? Daniel charged Belshazzar with two things that are the essence of all sin. You have not worshipped God as God. You have not given him glory and credited him with all your power and success. You haven't lived your life in response to him. He has not held first place in your heart. Instead, you worshipped idols because you thought you could control them, and you lived to please yourself. And the other thing he was charged with, you have used what God set apart for his purposes for your own. Specifically, Belshazzar was using knives, plates, and candlesticks for his drunken orgy that had been consecrated to the worship of God. When have you pursued the same things Daniel called out in Belshazzar's life? In calling out Belshazzar's sin, Daniel gives us a glimpse into the nature of all sin. This is the writing on the wall for all of us. Yet God graciously calls us to turn from this sin and toward him for his wisdom and grace. For us, these sins are particularly clear in a few areas. Let's consider them. Your talents. You were given gifts and talents to glorify God and serve him. To not use them for his purposes is like stealing the consecrated things and using them for yourself. All followers of Jesus are supposed to lay down their talents before God and say, what do you want to do with these? To not do that is stealing from your master. God's requirement is a blank check. What talents has God given you? Where are you using, or where could you use them to serve him? Your resources. Will a man rob God? Malachi 3:8. Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. You were to give back at least the first 10% of all God gave you. When don't God consider it stealing, misappropriation, just like Belshazzar did with the temple vessels? You're misusing a consecrated thing. Do you give at least 10% of your income or talents back to the Lord? Which actually, the 10% tithing was an Old Testament Jewish thing. And now tithing is giving whatever you feel appropriate in your heart or wherever you feel God is asking you. I have actually had multiple videos bringing this one up. If not, why not? Okay, sexual sin. The body is a sacred thing. It is made in the image of God. For the believer, the body is the temple of the Lord, so sex is sacred, something to go into with someone after you have fused your whole life with hers in a lifelong covenant. When you use someone else for sexual pleasure, you use a precious thing for your gratification. Belshazzar's story gives you warning of how serious God takes this. 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatever ye do, do all to the glory of God. How should this reshape the way we live every aspect of our lives? We should give all of our talents to God in praise and worship, in love, and in helping one another. Take a few minutes to consider these areas and confess to God where you need His forgiveness and His Spirit's help to honor Him. Father, teach me to reject sin and pursue your wisdom. We are all guilty of falling short of God and His glory and what He expects of us. But He is one that is willing to forgive us. Because as much as when we come to Him, as much as we pursue Him, He is pursuing us too. Stay blessed. Stay caffeinated. Much love.